Ever wonder what truly separates a great estate agent from the rest when it comes to maximising a property sale price? Well, in this exclusive interview, we're pulling back the curtain on the marketing strategies of top agent Ant Perkin. From leveraging professional photography and videography to crafting descriptions that reel in the ideal buyer, from generating pre-marketing buzz through social media to implementing crucial pre-listing pricing analysis, Ant reveals the multi-pronged approach that has him standing out in a crowded market and achieving top money for his clients. Now, in this episode, you won't want to miss his insider secrets on how comprehensive buyer-focused marketing and steadfast pricing integrity can position a listing for a premium sale. So, Ant, what is the one thing that truly maximises the value of someone's home when they go to sell their property?
I'm so glad you asked, John. I wasn't prepared for that question at all. No, I'm an avid listener. So first off the bat, I love this podcast, love what you're doing, and love how you're representing agents in the industry. So without further ado, my main thing to achieve the best price for the client would be marketing strategy. Now, I realise that's a broad term, so I'd like to dive into that a little deeper and then get to the crux of it, really.
Absolutely.
So look, marketing I see is an effort of marketing in combination, not in isolation, as someone very clever once said. I've absolutely ripped that off someone, but it's true. It's the same way we put a property on, and you realise it's on in competition, not in isolation. I know you love that one, John, and for good reason, because it's true. So marketing strategy, there's like 5-6 elements to, let's say, a listing presentation that a buyer will see. And I can sort of break those down somewhat into, well, you've got pricing, you've got professional pictures, you've got description, you've got floor plan, you've got video, you've got direct mail even. But is it elite, or are you at the top of your game if you're not treating each element of that separately? And what I mean by that is, someone might come to the listing, they might be a bit old school, they're boom, straight on the description. And they need to see, it written correctly or steered towards their, the buyer. I mean, all these elements and all the common threads should be in every marketing element should be steered towards the ideal buyer. Who's going to be reading this? Who's going to be watching this? Who's going to be looking at these pictures?
So basically what you're saying is, when you see the phrase, this rare opportunity to buy is a load of bollocks, is what you're saying.
Or so-and-so is extremely pleased to present. Yeah, bore off, get rid. It does make you laugh. It's because, it's not, I'll tell you, here's a little secret. It's not bloody hard to stand out, because isn't it? It's shocking to see some of the descriptions, some of the pictures. I mean, I've sort of said as one of those elements, professional pictures. That should be as standard. So anyone not doing professional pictures, that is, again, get out, get rid, because it is that is sort of laughable. We're as an industry, we should be way beyond that now, and not even discussing that. But look, on the subject of pictures as part of the strategy, and this applies to video as well. What I use it for anyway is to have the best of. So I want the best of pictures. I don't want to be showing the hallway cupboard with all the clutter, do I? That's ridiculous. So the best of, limit the pictures. You don't need 3 of the same thing. You don't need 3 of the garden, 3 of this, 3 of that. Same with the video. Here we go, Ant's rant. Video, the bugbear I have with video, and this is why I sort of say, is it enough to just have a video? I believe no, not to get the best price, because with a video, again, I see somewhere it's very much used as a show and tell, as opposed to a marketing tool, which is what it is. So to not utilize video as a marketing tool, for me, is a massive misstep. To use video, you want to give it an element that the description hasn't got, that maybe the pictures can't show you. And if pictures tell 1,000 words, and what on earth, what does that equate to when you're looking at a video? because you can show areas. You can see how close it is to the schools. You can see how close it is to the shops. You can see it's got a golf range around the corner, you know, and then you sort of piece that together so the target buyer is going to be attracted to that, and also make it stand out.
And so, forgive me for cutting in. Are you saying the reason for video, the reason for professional photography, the reason for a property description that's aimed at a certain type of buyer that you absolutely know will be the ideal type of buyer, as opposed to we are proud to bring this property to blah, blah, blah? Are you saying all of these elements are purely for the buyer, or, right, is it for their mum and dad who may be supplying the deposit? Is it for the friends and family or the colleagues at work that will have an opinion? Is it for everyone else, or is it purely just for the buyer?
So, I mean, there's other elements that it can attract those other types of people, but I think someone reading it, the people that are going to be coming to view the property, want to feel like you're speaking to them, or at least have something that stands out, that when they're doom scrolling through Rightmove and looking at properties, they go, oh, that's the one where, you know, someone's dressed as a hobbit. Now, that was one story actually, where I had a property called the Shire, and when life gives you lemons, have the lemons. Do you know what I mean? I dressed up as a hobbit. Right. Anyway, ignore that. But like little bits that, you know, people can remember when they're scrolling to say, that's a bit different. I'll come back to that. Or it's shareable. So there's an entrepreneur called James Sinclair that calls it edutainment. So if you know what videos do well on social media, it's ones that educate or entertain. But if you sort of do both, where you're explaining lots about the property and it's entertaining, then you've sort of got that best of both situation going. So if you can do that where it's shareable, then you're naturally going to have a bit more eyeballs on the content and essentially the property.
Right. So the buyer's mum and dad, friends at work, colleagues at work, friends down the pub, actually, it's not for them yet. When you come to a property description, what you're saying is it's the hook. And the hook has to speak directly to the individuals likely to buy the house, or the individuals, and then mean that they are now being, like you just said then, and I love that, actually, they're going to come back to it. They're going to come back to that property that was they saw on Rightmove as they're scrolling through. And then the rest comes later. Love that. Yeah.
So I feel like, you know, to win over the mums and dads kicking the tires situation, you can, how I see them being involved in the scenario would be, the buyer's already come through the door. They've seen the property. And there's another element actually I missed out, the 360 virtual tours, right? I love them, but they fall under the show and tell category. So mum and dad might want to be shown and told after the buyer's seen it. So that's when I release the 360 tours to the buyers, is post viewing. So they've been to see it, touch it, feel it. They've been, you know, obviously attracted to property prior to that via the marketing strategy, but the 360 they get on, let's say, a viewing day on a Saturday, they can show mum and dad at the pub, their friends, people saying, how much are you planning to offer? Well, they can have all those arguments between them, have an actual virtual tour that they can say, oh, the ceilings were a bit higher here. You know, oh, no, this actually looks a bit bigger in person. So they then are the champions for the property, and they sell it to their mum and dad. They sell it to their friends who have got concerns, because they've literally got something they can look through. It's not just a video. They can spend as much time on there. They can measure up on there. So I do love them, but you will never see one of them on an open listing of mine.
Yeah. And so in terms of the marketing, right, with the things that you're discussing now, do you do some sort of like pre-marketing as well, which incorporates these elements?
Yes. So, well, the social media video actually does get released a few days before the launch. So that's just the immediate network on Instagram, and any traction that it gets. You might have a few early bird viewings off the back of that, or just like, you know, they might be able to guarantee that they can get on the first viewing day if it goes, you know, bananas. And then direct mail. So again, these are sort of the 1% moves, like how many people are actually come from that. yeah, probably 1%, but it just takes one. And if it came from a direct mail piece that was a lady that isn't on social media or isn't doesn't look at Rightmove, and it's sort of perfect. Oh, I know Dorothy's moving soon. I better let her know. And and you've let them all know about the viewing day. You might apologise if there's not a lot of parking on the road, to say, look, the viewing day's taking place on this day. But it's just sparking a conversation, and it can get conversations going. And actually, a few listings have come off the back of that as well, because they kind of see how you operate prior. But again, everything works, nothing doesn't.
Yeah, so I like that, because effectively you're bringing the offline crowd online that may otherwise have not seen it. So one person then will know someone else that goes, oh my God, that place you was telling me about that you really wanted to buy, your ideal property. Well, there's something coming to market this Saturday. Yeah. So effectively, you're not leaving really any stone unturned.
No, that's the whole. Yeah, you don't want to leave any stone unturned, and you really don't want to get to the point, being on the market, it not going, and so I lost my trail of thought there. But you don't want to be in a position where you're going, oh, we could improve the pictures there. Oh, we could, the video is far too long, or it's not edited correctly, or the floor plan's not on there, but we'll put it on there a week later. It's like, no, get all your ducks in a row and launch with purpose, because everything's leading to this viewing day to create competition.
Absolutely right, because the property is the fucking biggest event on that street. The property coming to market should be the biggest event in that town. Going back to your point earlier, which of course, Tom Panos, property is not in isolation, it's in competition. So again, that is like fucking gold for a seller who actually accepts that. I was speaking to, via Instagram, a seller that's basically struggling big time. And she has made so many mistakes despite my advice that I've given to her, right? In the end, she said, can you sell it for me? She's been on for like 4 months, just getting laughed at by the agents. And I said, there's two options. Option number one is you pay me 2% minimum to come and untangle this mess, right? And you give me £1,000 marketing contribution fee, because this is going to be horrible for me to actually get involved with. The other reason, or the other option, I said to her, is that go back to your agent. They are not allowed to say they are going to reduce the price. They're not allowed to say that. They have to now come up with a strategy, a plan, right, that's actually going to get you what you want, what they promised you in the beginning, right? But they can't say price. Definitely cannot say we need to reduce it. Now, to your point, what's happened to that lady, I hope, and you've probably seen it loads of times, where you may have missed out on instruction and then later on they come back to you and apologise, sorry, Ant, I should have given you the property in the first place because you didn't bullshit me. Those things that you're talking about now, I could not agree more with. Get it done right the first time, because you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And so that is absolutely golden, because this lady now, it doesn't matter if their marketing strategy is amazing. It doesn't matter if they're suddenly they're like develop the biggest kahunas in the world, and suddenly they build the biggest network in the world, because no one wants to buy what other people don't want. And if it's been on for 4 months, that's why I would have to untangle it. But I wanted to just stitch that agent up with, they're not allowed to say reduce the price. So what else are they going to do?
Like it. There's only one thing there, John, and you did say off air that if I could disagree with something, because look, you can try your utmost at the appraisal stage, right? When you're sitting down, you're in the living room or kitchen table, wherever you are. I do my utmost to look at the data that's there, to plan where we're going to go on in the market, and to take it back to on the market in competition or isolation, and then looking at perceived value. Where does this sit condition wise? What can we do to get it ready? We've done all of that. Boom, go to market. One viewing turns up to the viewing day, which by the way is 10 days later after the launch. So you've had a good test of this market. One viewing turns up. If one viewing turns up after 10 days, I'm reducing that price. But the reason you don't want to show reduce, don't get me wrong, it's not the ideal scenario, but if it does, the rebuttal to a buyer that says, oh, I can see it's reduced. I said, it's a second viewing day. It's only been on for 2 weeks. Boom. You've you've shortened it down. You've still created that competition, and that the fact it's so early. So yes, it's not ideal, but the rebuttal is that we're very early on and we've reacted very quick, because sometimes you don't always get it right.
Yeah, but that's not your strategy, though, is it? Your strategy
No,
is not always so. The strategy,
contingency.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, contingency, right? So the fact is that this property had been on for 4 months,
yeah,
so it's never about selling the house. It was about winning
mm,
instruction.
yeah,
You're professional enough to know, because I know you and I know Keller Williams and I know the business that you're working with and I know the guys that you're surrounded with. You are about actually selling property at the right money, which is basically either market or market value or above. And you probably won't accept it yourself that for a property to be sitting there for 6, 8, 9, 10 weeks doing nothing. Maybe if it's a £52 million property, or maybe if it's a £2 million property in the sea of properties that are only 300 grand, fine, no problem. That can be on for longer, right? But your run of the mill property, your standards,
mm,
really, in my opinion, should be sold within a month.
yeah, yeah. And you'd sort of you'd be concerned because the strategy then maybe hasn't worked within that month, and then we sort of work on those sort of 4-week cycles of, right, strategy one, okay, on to the next. But again, the client's aware of that, so those conversations aren't difficult,
Mm.
or they're not as difficult as, if you've put your head in a noose on a price and said, I'm going to get you this, I'm going to get you that, because probably 9 times out of 10, the agents that use the strategy of the overpricing and the reduce, get to the end of that process when they've sold it, no doubt, and tied them into a long contract, as we know. What's their overall experience going to have been on the back of that? They're going to be like, never using that agent again. Didn't say what they wanted to do, just fed up with the price reductions and probably could have got more in the end, but we just reduce over months. They're probably not going to have a great experience. So if you go in, with a long-term view of helping a client, I mean, thankfully, the way we sort of operate here at Keller Williams anyway, and many other self-employed models, is that we're definitely aligned with the client. The more money we get for them, the more money we get for us. So
Mm.
you're aligned on that sense, just as a rule anyway. But then it's all the elements that you can add. So I don't think I've actually answered your question on the one thing.
I was going to
Of
say we sort of moved off piece. My fault, but
yeah,
moved off
went
piece.
around the houses, if you pardon the pun. I'm a
So,
dad now. I can do dad jokes.
oh yeah.
I
So,
am, yeah.
oh wow, how old's the baby?
4 weeks, 5 weeks, maybe 5 weeks today, actually. Yeah.
Wow, mate.
Few new grey hairs.
How are
Any
you
listeners, you
finding it?
can't see the bags under my eyes. Um, yeah, loving it. Honestly, loving it. And again, another sort of, just to bring it back maybe to work related, I had a few properties due to come on the market, but where it's a very relationship based. I mean, they wanted to see pictures of the baby. There was, asking questions about it, and are you going to get that at your larger outfits? Are they that interested? Do they even know? So it's been really, really nice, and even gifts from clients as well. And I just think, wow, like this is what it's all about. This is what it's
Well,
all
I
about,
think
for
I
sure.
think that's born of you clearly know what you're doing. You are clearly somebody that is frictionless in the sense that sellers really feel like they can actually talk with you and actually tell you their issues, which probably may even be outside of property, right?
Mm,
Or it could be about their onward purchase, or they're opening up to say, look, I'm a little bit stressed about maybe what the buyer's asking for and stuff, and they want to feel protected and they want to feel like you're in their team and you're working with them. And I think that's the testament is the gifts that you're getting or the photographs that they want to see from you. That just speaks massive volumes as a testimonial, because guess what? If you was a dickhead, they wouldn't care about your baby. Do you know what I mean? It'd be like, and maybe just out of politeness, they may ask, but they don't care. Do you know what I mean? But to buy you
yeah.
something, they've actually gone out and spent their time and their money to get
Mm,
you a gift, which I think's phenomenal. But you are right, though. If we were to bring it back, and we're talking about those marketing elements,
hmm
because as you said, it is the biggest event in that town for that person, right? What are your thoughts around the one thing if you had to bring it all together?
Sure. So obviously we touched on all the marketing elements, and you can have all of that. You have the best video in the world, best pictures, all of the right strategy there. But if it is priced incorrectly, you've got Bob Hope and no hope, because the wrong eyeballs are looking at your property, if they're even looking at it. Plus the perceived value. If you've over-egged it, you've got other properties on in competition just looking way more appealing than yours. Might be bigger square footage, better condition, whatever. You want to be on the opposite side of that coin and maybe be on at the same price, but the perceived value is much higher than the competition. Therefore, you're going to get the eyeballs, you're going to get the inquiries come in, and bottom line is, to drive the price is competition. So you want the competition in order to drive the price, because not for an easy life, but it's a lot easier to negotiate when you've got more than one horse in the race.
Exactly. And I always use 100% as a benchmark. So the benchmark being 100%. So yeah, we can get value wrong, and I've absolutely got the value of property wrong in the past. Of course I have, right? But I can make a million mistakes. I just can't make the same mistake twice. So I can't get the value of the same style of fucking house on the same street unless it is next to a tip and with a railway line and a bus route at the front of it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? But if it's apples and apples, I should be getting the price completely correct. But it is, though, so much more than what you're talking about is a massive element in terms of the property's positioning. And I believe, going back to your point about price, you could be the worst lack of knowledge agent in an area, but if you get the price right, you could end up getting a deal through because the price is right, and that's hooked them onto, fuck, I need this property in my life. I don't care how shit the agent is, the lack of service, the bullshit that they're telling me, whatever. I want this house. But get the price wrong, and then, like you said, it doesn't matter how good the marketing is, the property descriptions are, the way in which it comes across, the floor plans, the positioning. It's but then beyond that, also, it is knowledge. I know I just said it isn't if you get the price right, but it actually is knowledge. In terms of the fun begins when the property goes under offer. The work really begins when the property goes under offer, right? Not when the offers are coming in.
Yeah. So I think, like, I know that the whole question was around the price, but yeah, when you're in the weeds of found the buyer, that's when the work really starts. And I think that's when, that sale to completion element, steps in. It's getting those properties over the line.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a rule, and I was so lucky when I first became a sales manager, because the directors there, Steve McGee and James Kerman, right? Alex Rivkin was my first manager. He was ex-Foxtons, but he didn't have a Foxtons fucking shitty attitude, right? He had like just work ethic was insane, right? But without the bullshit, right? So I was lucky to have him, lucky to have the other two guys. And what they said to me when I first became a sales manager was, John, go for the second sale. Go for the second sale. And I was like, that resonated because that's how I was thinking anyway, right? But they were like, gave me the platform to be brutally fucking honest with sellers without worrying about whether I won the instruction or not. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's tricky for a new self-employed agent to have that mentality, but they must have it, otherwise they are wasting their time. And sorry to speak on the self-employed agent, it's just that's kind of how I operate. But yeah, you've got to think you take on a lot fewer listings, so there's less volume, which allows you to give more of yourself to each client. There's no blooming point on taking on that listing, so it's almost rite of passage. You must be upfront and honest, because you're going to end up wasting your own time, doing the marketing, doing all that strategy. If you haven't been upfront and honest with that price, and they're not on board and they don't understand it, it's an uphill battle from day one. So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that, and the transparency off the bat is vital. Lovely.
Right, Ant Perkins, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. It's been a long time, mate. So finally getting you on was a nice.
I got a good excuse, didn't I? What a baby.